DJ Nation family, what is up? DJ Nation family, what is up? What is happening? Woo! We back live. It's the Fantasy Authority. You already know what time it is. I'm so happy to be back with my boys. We talking to Thanksgiving slate. Are we thankful? We got the 4. We got the quad box going. Oh my Lord, look at that. We got Maddie DFS. We got Maddie 2v2. This boy been coming back from the beach, coming back from his qualifier, getting after it, giving you all the hot plays. And then my boy D-Bro, look at that bearded, lovable bear over there. Oh, D-Bro, come on with it, that D-Bro FFB. You know what time it is, D-Bro. Yeah, you know how to make you smile, snapback king. And then we got D-Bro's daddy. Oh my gosh, is that the TFA Godfather? Oh my gosh, is that the Fantasy Rap 13, the man himself? He done graced us with his presence, Mr. Kevin Steele. Oh, boys. Whew. Like I said, the quad box is back. I'm so happy to be here with you guys. Would it be a Thanksgiving slate if we weren't breaking it down together? I mean, really, like we've been doing this for how long now? It's a tradition. Cleve got the Santa Claus hat on. Like this is what we do. I'm joining from a phone, you know, RAW lag. You know what time it is, baby. I had to come back for this one. How y'all doing?
4 or 5 years? What is this? How many years running we got this thing going, guys?
It's been a while.
At least.
At least. I want to say 5, man.
Yeah, something like that. 4 or 5 years.
I mean, we've been out here, man. So I guess I want to ask a question. Over under 4 hours for this podcast.
Under.
Got.
No, it will be under for me. You guys can see. You guys are happy to stay on.
And this this is actually history too, because this is the first podcast that we're doing where we all have children now. Like we old.
Ooh.
Yep.
We are old, boys.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, me and Kev have been here
too,
for a minute. We've been a little bit old, but y'all getting older. It's nice to see the youngins growing up here on the show.
Yeah, D-Bro, you the OG, you vintage, you and Kev, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Every time I see Kev, you know, he ain't got the Just for Men going yet. You know, it gets lighter and lighter in that beard. It gets lighter and lighter, but
yeah,
we might have to touch it up.
D's got some coming in too.
Hey man, that's for real. That is some real talk. Okay, this looks like Tony Satchery with a lot of fucking salt going on, baby. That's all I can say.
Each gray hair is just one slate you played Christian Watson.
I
might be getting another one after Thanksgiving. Then we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Oh
boys.
my goodness, we're already talking about it. All right. So you know, Fantasy DJ Nation, you guys already know. You can see it. You're watching on the stream. You got the Fantasy Authority right there. Follow along on Twitter. Get the Discord channel up. Get the YouTube channel up. I'm on my phone. I don't even know if people are in the chat, Kev. I don't know what's going on, but I'll make sure to highlight the people and make sure that we get the questions answered. It's the Thanksgiving slate. It's a tradition unlike any other. There we go. Walito, what's up, my boy?
Walito.
I see you in there. You know what time it is. We had to come back. I appreciate the love. I appreciate that love. We got a 3-game slate, boys. It feels like this has kind of changed up a couple times every year. It feels like we always get a fun one going on every year. And we're talking about the Thanksgiving slate. Kev with his hot takes. Who knows where the hell he's going to be going as the slate kind of presents a lot of opportunities to talk about some hot takes as we have some injuries to report, injuries to talk about. But we got the slate looking at the Packers and the Lions, the Commanders at the Cowboys, and 49ers at the Seahawks. This 3-gamer is going to provide a lot of fun. So, Kev, we doing this from the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end conversation? Is that how we going to start it off and do that? No game-by-game breakdown?
Nope, no game by game. We just do position by position around these parts.
All right. Well, before we get into position, let's just talk about the overall state of the slate, right? Because we do have some injuries. We do talk about strategy. We talked about it a long time, right? With the first game, you know, this is a slate unlike any other. When you get that first game going, how much PMR are you going to leave? How are you going to, you know, set yourself up for success? Where are the chalk plays coming from? As we talk about the teams who are expected to score points, we got the Cowboys in that middle game, the 49ers in that late game. You don't want to eat everything up with the Packers and Lions, even though it could be enticing. But from a slate standpoint, and we could lead that into the quarterback conversations, how are we feeling about things this week, boys? Debro, I actually want to start with you because you already started to mention the Packers situation. We got some injuries at running back. We got some injuries at wide receiver, like Jordan Love, put him back on the map. They really have a chance to kind of, they're not going to win the NFC North, of course, but like in the playoff picture outside looking in, like they got this game and then they got the Chiefs in Lambeau though, and got some winnable games through December. Like how are we feeling about just how to attack this first game, and where are your thoughts at?
Man, I think this whole slate's interesting. I think it's going to get wild, man. I mean, I think like all the injuries to the Packers backfield, could we see them go more pass heavy in this? So, what are our thoughts with Jordan Love? Looking at the pass catchers, I think it's all over the map with them. Plus the injuries. I mean, I don't want to jump ahead to tight ends, but shit, man. Min price 2,500 Tucker Kraft, who could run all the freaking routes and open up the entire damn board for us. How chalky is he going to be, man? So I think there's a lot of different ways to go in this slate, man. Like, it really. Looking at these short slates and these condensed when like we're rolling 3-4 games, I love how you laid it out, Ryan, about like, do you build for the late hammers and stuff? But like some of these early games, if you don't build any of those early games, say Tucker Kraft goes out and he gets 40 and a touchdown, he gets at 9-10 points, he might make the damn optimal, and you're like, well, shit, how am I going to make that up in the second 2 games? So it's how much do you want to build for the early versus the late? Which one of these games, if you got to pick one, do you think just shoots out? Because, I mean, there's some interesting narratives to go with every single game here. I mean, Detroit's basically been able to like put up 30 points at will. Are they going to get there with how expensive their pieces are? Washington is a team that never seems like they're out of any game. I mean, every game we're like, well, they're not going to keep up with the Eagles. They do. So, I mean, I'm not counting them out to be able to possibly keep up with the Cowboys. Or do you just build for the late hammer possible shootout of the 49ers and Seahawks, man? It's an interesting damn slate. I think there's a bunch of different ways to go, but I'm curious where y'all sit, man.
Yeah, Maddie, how you feeling about the kind of state of the slate and what shapes up? Because this is one that we usually, love to talk about, right? Like I think back, a couple years back, Deshaun Watson still on the Houston Texans. They play in that early game. Like, do you stack up Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins, let that kind of ride and, really just kind of have that baseline set, and then you only need to make pivots, later on. But when you're talking about these later on games, like you do have CeeDee Lamb, you do have Tony Pollard, you do have Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers wide receiver. Like what's the quarterback situation looking like for Seattle? Like what's that going to open up? And you don't want to just get yourself in a hole early on where you're not having positions for pivot. It's also one of those things too, as we talk about Thanksgiving slate and how fun it is. Like it's also one of those things you have to be able to play it the way it needs to be played. You cannot be setting these lineups before the 11:30 Central Time lock, 12:30 Eastern Time, whatever that is, Pacific Time, and be thinking, oh, I'm going to be good. Like you have to be paying attention to injury news. You got to be able to pay attention to what's going on, and that leads us up to spots. Maddie, how are you going to be approaching the slate from that standpoint?
Yeah, I mean the injuries, you hit it right on the head. The injuries pretty much shape this slate. Like we can kind of build now, as placeholders, but we can't really actually build until we know, some of these injuries. Like Aaron Jones, that's a big one. AJ Dillon, if he's out too, like Debro said, like they're not just gonna, lean on Patrick Taylor, right? It's could be a huge bump in pass volume, which has been, part of the issue for the Green Bay pass catchers is a lack of volume. But then you got Geno Smith or Drew Lock. Like who's it going to be there? That's everybody's going to play the Cowboys defense. So like if it's Drew Lock, like shoot, I love the San Fran defense there. And also in the same breath, if these running backs are out for Green Bay, I like the Lions defense too. Because Green Bay on the road is a lot different than Green Bay at home. Especially for Jordan Love. Most of Love's big games have come at home. But yeah, so I think the slate's interesting. I think the injuries matter a lot. And it'll be interesting to see, if some of these guys that are out, if their backups start to take on more ownership, because then, it's kind of easy for me to fade backups, that are just getting thrusted into what we project as higher volume roles, but it's just going to be more inefficient offenses, which we typically see when these reserves step in. So I'd be careful on going overweight or getting crazy with the guys that are the value guys that are going to be thrust into new roles. But I definitely think there are a couple that make sense, and we'll talk about them as we go through. But I definitely think there's going to be some landmines as well.
Yeah, Kev, talk to me here as we talk about the quarterbacks from this game, and I do think this is an interesting game to kind of kick it off and start with, because there are going to be so many of those opportunities that people are going to be uncertain about what to do with. That could really lend itself to, just as Maddie's alluding to, being landmines, and really, it could come down to like an approach of maybe full fade in this game. Kev, you're the one that is always about the contrarian approach and kind of coming at things differently. I like to pride myself on that, but you really have taken the cake on the take chamber as of late. So what are you doing with this game? Like, are there any interesting angles that you're looking at, maybe just from the quarterback perspective as it stands, and we can start that conversation?
Yeah, I think the biggest leverage point of this entire weekend is going to be to Dak Prescott or not, right? And if you're not, then what's the other options you can go to that make the most sense? And I think you can make a case for Jared Goff in this first game, but this is also a tricky situation because they also are a team that will run the ball on you all day. And considering that's how you beat the Packers is by of running the ball. They're one of the worst in the league in terms of stopping opposing running backs. And you have two of the best right now that are just crushing every single week in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Both of them have been putting up over 18 PPR points per game. And so it's tough to get away from that. And so, but everybody's going to go Dak Prescott because it makes the most sense, because the Commanders, we just saw the Commanders allow Tommy fucking DeVito go out and just slay against them. Yep. And now we're going to see Dak Prescott, who is one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league over the last month of the season. And so everybody's going to play him. And so the question, though, is because he is 6,800, is there a leverage point is there somebody else that can get you there? It may not be in the same strategy, but can open up enough to where it makes you a little bit more different, because, I've kind of played around with it, just messing around with some stuff. And if you go Jordan Love, which I know it feels kind of gross, but if you go Jordan Love, where Detroit has been exposed by opposing quarterbacks this year, they are the only team other than Washington that is in the top 10 of DK points allowed to quarterbacks. They are the only other team. And if we think they're going to be playing in a trailing game script, then they're not going to be able to run the ball. Now, they are dealing with some injuries, but to be fair, I mean, the players they are missing is not some huge impact in terms of how their offense is going to function. I mean, Aaron Jones hasn't been a thing all fucking year. Luke Musgrave is whatever. And so, the big one for me would be Jaden Reed to monitor to see what's going to happen with him. It sounds like he might be okay to play. It kind of popped up a chest injury. We'll see. But if you play that with Tucker Kraft, right? And then if you go with, even if you want to do a triple stack there and go with like a Christian Watson or which I feel gross saying just because of last week what happened, but, or Jaden Reed would be the guy I want to go with. Like, you literally could play CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Brandon Ayuk, right? You can literally pay all the studs by just going with that direction. And so the question is like, is Dak going to bury you enough to where, going contrarian, paying down, can he get close enough to be able to get there? I think that's really like one of the biggest pivot points of the weekend of trying to find, okay, if it's not Dak, because everything on paper aligns for Dak Prescott to be the nuts, you just lock him in because of that situation. But where can we get different? I think Jordan Love would definitely be one of them. I know he hasn't been sexy, but for fantasy purposes, for stuff like that, he has been able to get you there. Like, he's not putting up these monster numbers, but he's somebody that can get you 19, 20 DK points, and at $5,500 on a 3-game slate, that'll play. And so, the only thing you have to hope is maybe Tony Pollard runs a couple of them in and takes a couple touchdowns away from Dak, and then all of a sudden you're in business to be able to steal a lot of this ownership away from there. The other option maybe would be Sam Howell. Sam Howell has played well this year, but I don't love it against this Dallas defense and how well they've played. And then in terms of the San Francisco side, that game feels really gross to me. That game feels like a game that could end up being like a 20-17 type of game. I want pieces from there. But I also think one of the most important things about this week is going to be late swap and really accessing late swap. And a lot of times people don't go to that all that often. But on a 3-game slate, I think if any lineups that you think are dead, it's going to be really smart just to jump in there and start late swapping and start going some different directions there too.
Kev, I can't believe you we talked. You mentioned Dak Prescott about 5 times. Like, is Brock Purdy going to get any love here? I mean, dear Lord, like everything he's been doing on a freaking week, like shit. And the stacking partners, like we know who to go with. Like it's not very difficult. He's the other guy that I feel like, yeah, with Brock Purdy, man.
Well, I mean,
like,
I don't know. I don't know if I'd say if it's not difficult. I mean, it's tough to know who.
No,
that's why
it's
that was so like we talked about this like the Million Maker that where they played Brock Purdy naked was the reason why is because you just don't know who the guy is going to be. They have so many different options, so you get all the points from that, but you don't have to necessarily stack.
I mean, we talked about it last week. Was I wrong? It's George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk, and that's who the hell smashed, and that's who's going to smash again this week. I don't know if Brandon Ayuk gets there, but I'm telling you, George Kittle's going the hell off. We'll talk about it more in tight ends, but like it. I think the 2 highest owned quarterbacks on this slate are Dak and Brock Purdy. The question is, like, how high do they get? And how much is that on Dak? Like, do y'all think Dak pushes 40%, 50%? Like, that's not crazy to say, guys. I think like everybody's going to play him.
Yeah.
Like, but if you combine Dak and Brock Purdy, can we say that's going to take up at least 65-70% of QB ownership? Am I wrong with that?
No, I don't feel like you're wrong, D-Bro. I think the biggest thing to kind of talk about when we talk about the percentages too is just contests are you're 50-ish%, if not, I mean, dare I say higher, like just because of the state of the slate there, and what things are shaping up to be. So, if you're playing in like, 100 entry field or, under 1,000 entry field, even, I feel like from a single entry standpoint, like you're in that 40% to 55% range on Dak Prescott. That's just the nature of the
I think he's going to be that high even in midfields, like 2,000, 3,000 people. Like, I think he's going to be that damn high. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Like, this feels like the 2 top quarterbacks are going to be Prescott and it's going to be Purdy right behind him. Like, that's the 2 highest, like the most popular guys here. So I think if you're going to play somebody else, you're going to be auto different. Like the way your lineup construction is probably going to be a little bit different. And to Kev's point about Jordan Love, it feels so freaking gross. But could we see them pass more with no healthy running backs? The other thing, as I'm sitting here thinking about Jordan Love, could he run more? Because if they don't have a running game, could they design more runs for him? Because we haven't seen a lot of that. But this guy's got rushing upside. Like he's got 2 games this year where he's got at least 34 rushing yards. He's got 2 scores on the ground. Could we see Jordan Love get 40, 50, maybe 60 rushing yards on the ground? And like, that's not insane because if they dial up like 4 to 5 designed runs for him because they have no damn running backs, like it's possible.
No, that's interesting as well too. And do we know the state of the running back situation there outside of Patrick Taylor? Like, is James Robinson elevated for them? Not to skip over to running back, but I don't know if we know.
He'll be active if Dylan can't go. I think as long as Dylan goes, and he was limited with a groin, and that's new. But I think he plays. But if he doesn't play, then I think you see Taylor and you see James Robinson, and shit, just I'm auto fading both those dudes. Hell no.
Yeah.
But remember, what was it like Adrian Peterson a few years ago that like dusty ass Adrian Peterson, like
LeGarrette Blount? Y'all remember that?
Was it Adrian Peterson or was it LeGarrette Blount? I thought it was.
It was both of them. We had one AP
too.
game where he went off. I think it was for the Lions, and the year before that, I think it was Blount going for 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, in the 3K range for Adrian Peterson too. Vintage.
Yep.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Well, Blount was like 4K or some shit. Like we were all like, all right, Slate over. After the first game, we're like, all right, well, LeGarrette buried us all. 3 tutties. Good luck. We're all just trying
on a showdown.
Cashes.
Yeah.
Right. Good luck for you, men cashes, boys. We out.
Was that the year with the Falcons? I remember because Julio Jones ended up getting ruled out at the end. And there was like a 3K wide receiver that I was on that that I can't remember who the fuck it was. I
Yeah.
can't remember his name now. But
Well,
like some
wasn't it Russell
random
Gage or it was
No.
Russell Gage or Zacchaeus? I
No.
thought it was.
no.
It,
No.
it was
It was
like
completely
Justin
off the
Hardy or
board.
something like that. He was
I
so-
can't even remember.
Knowing Kev. Knowing
It was
Kev, yep.
completely off the board, and like he ended up scoring a touchdown and getting there. But yeah. Anyway, Maddie, I did want to ask: is ownership out yet? Like, is there any decent ownership yet?
Yeah, there's some. It's obviously going to get more accurate as we get closer, but it looks like, it's what you would expect, right? It's, Dak and Purdy for QB, and then for the position players, it's McCaffrey, Pollard, Lamb, and Amon-Ra.
How popular is Dak, Maddie? Going back to him.
This is...
What are you looking at? Like 50%? 45?
This has him lower than that. I think it's going to be higher than what's listed. It's got him listed at 22. It's too up.
There's no way.
Yeah, no. The math
in a main slate, sure.
Yeah,
in a 3-gamer, shit, no.
The math doesn't check out. I think he's going to come in 35 to 40 personally.
Yeah, I was like triple that.
Yeah. So, but it's it's going to come down to what I think is going to happen on this slate is the popular build is going to be stars and scrubs, 100%.
Yeah.
People are going to get as many of CMC, Amon-Ra, and CeeDee Lamb as they can. They're going to take the punts with tight end, whether that's, Tucker Kraft or, Jake Ferguson's 3,900. He's going to be insanely popular, especially with Dak. Kittle's going to go overlooked. At running back, David Montgomery is going to go overlooked, which is a mistake.
Is he?
Yeah, okay. Because dude, you just can't fit the 6,500 guy. And if
you can only play so many dudes too. It's like you got to pick and choose.
People are playing a 6,500 guy, they're just going to pay 300 more for Jahmyr Gibbs at 6,800.
Yeah.
So David Montgomery, I think, and this we don't have to cut the running back yet, but I think he is my favorite tournament play on the slate. With that being said, so there are responsible and high upside ways to get different here.
Yep.
It's just a matter of figuring out these upside pieces, which look like on paper that are lower owned would be Kittle and Montgomery at the moment. But that's not to say you go in and just fade these studs because they're high owned. They're the studs for a reason, right? And we've seen them smash all year. So yep. I think I'm just going to try to get in a couple of these high upside guys that are at lower ownership. And that's, like I said, it's looking like Montgomery's one of those and Kittle's another one. And then depending on what the Seattle situation is, Lockett and DK, assuming DK plays, but if he doesn't, if Geno plays and is like actually able to throw a football, because when he came back in that game on Sunday, he looked awful. They should not have put him back in that game. That
for what it's worth, I think Geno plays. It's a damn it's a bruise. It's a bruise on his tricep. Like,
I think
they're gonna numb that shit up, and he's gonna play.
I think he plays too. And that leads to interesting Seattle too, right? Like we've seen spots where Geno can deliver points, and it hasn't really been this year. But
he's got 2 games with 25 DK.
Yeah, and it's not even about playing Geno, right? It's just about playing the pass catchers there because it's so consolidated. Like,
right.
Especially if DK were to miss, because DK popped up as DMP today, and that's with a toe.
Oh, I missed that. What happened?
That's with a toe, which has not been what he's been having maintenance on. So it's
that's new.
They've normally given him rest days during the week, and it's because just your traditional vet rest day for some of the vets, and he's had some like hip and shoulder and all that, whatever. Now it's a toe DMP, so there is concern that DK misses, and if that happens, it now turns into Lockett and JSN. So that's a really condensed offense, and especially when you lose Kenneth Walker. And Charbonnet becomes an interesting pass catching back there as well. So for a team that's going to be trailing, there is a lot of volume that's going to go to these 3 guys really on Seattle if right. DK were to be out. So yes, we can project Seattle to not really score a ton against San Francisco. Maybe they put together something like San Fran's defense has looked good at times, and they've also looked really bad at times. So
I think they're overrated. We keep talking about that game as being gross. I don't think it's gross.
Yeah, I don't think any of these games are gross. Actually, I think honestly, I think the game that's likeliest to be the grossest is probably the first one. You know,
Yep.
I think Detroit
Yep.
could just own them on the ground, and Green Bay has a chance to not get anything going if you know they don't have either of their running backs active, or just AJ Dillon. Like how many times have we seen AJ Dillon without Aaron Jones this year, and just he's done nothing.
Yep.
So I think the first game could be really gross, and I think the second game could end up in a shootout. I mean, like you said, the Commanders have played a lot of close games in spots that we've not expected them to.
Mhm.
You know, they have been blown out a couple times, one by Chicago where they lost 40-20. That was the Fields to DJ Moore game. And then also they got obliterated off the face of the earth by the Bills. But and yes, Dallas is hot, but Dallas has only covered once in like I think the last 12 on Thanksgiving. And they've been, you know, like touchdown favorites in almost all of them. So
Yeah.
I think that second game is interesting. I think Seattle, nobody's going to play the Seattle side. But with how much San Fran is going to put up points, they're going to be trailing. And there is no Kenneth Walker, so likely.
The 49ers, the 49ers are their implied team total is only 24.5. Like
it's only like that's bad.
That's high.
I was like, what do you mean only? That's
very
bad,
middle of the road. That's not high. Like I would consider the Cowboys at 29 point, almost 30.
Yes, 30 is high. 30
I would
is abnormally
even
high.
the Lions at 27.
Can we also say that sounds a little bit off for a team that's been religiously
Not
dropping
necessarily,
30 every damn week?
Well, I mean,
that sounds off.
It is
I'll
going
throw
to
it
be.
out
I mean, just depending on. I mean, where they're playing at. It's going to be on the road in Seattle, a primetime game. You know, that place gets fucking crazy, and so like I that does play into it. Like I'm not that excited about playing the 49ers here. Like the Seahawks defense has been decent, especially their secondary has been pretty good. Like I think you can get some pieces from it, but like I'm not excited to stack the 49ers up. Like I would there's other spots. I would rather stack the Lions up before I got there, before I get to the 49ers. Like yes, I want some pieces from that offense, but like this isn't a spot where I think the 49ers are just going to go nuclear or anything like that. Like I just don't see that type of game script coming from this game. And like I said, I mean it's also you know, divisional games are wild. Crazy things. Now, all these games are divisional games, so that is something, you know, obviously to talk about. But with these two teams, I just don't think it's that simple of saying, oh, the 49ers are going to come in here and dog walk them or something like that. I don't think that happens at all.
You don't think that happens if Drew Lock plays?
I expect Geno Smith to play.
I mean, I'm with you. I expect Geno Smith to play too, but dude, we see the 49ers very, very differently. I look at a team that's just like the damn Lions that's put up 30 points religiously every damn week. And I mean,
except for the weeks they went on that 3-game losing streak, but yeah.
Well, yeah, when Brock Purdy was concussed and shit and still out on the field, yeah, let's throw those out. How about we do that? I mean, outside of that, yeah, they've put up a crap ton of points. So, like, to me, I feel like this is almost like, do you just attack this from like, let's garner the best offenses? Like, okay, who are the two best offenses? If you want to throw Dallas in there and make this a three-headed monster, that's fine. But possibly the two best offenses in this entire damn slate are the Lions and 49ers, and saying, okay, both of them score 30 freaking points. Where do they go? And just going at it from that point and just getting blocks of teams and trying to get the best teams on the board. Like there's a really easy conversation. And like we talked about Jordan Love, there's a really easy conversation to say, I mean, why not full fade the Packers? Like it's like they're really enticing because all of their pieces are super damn cheap. But let's look at that offense as a whole. Jordan Love for the most of the season has been awful. Absolutely awful.
It reminds me of the Chargers last week, honestly.
Yeah.
They have one or two guys, and their offense just looks like dog shit.
Well, I mean, and now we're talking about, now we've degraded the entire offense. Their starting tight end is out. Their entire backfield is out. Jordan Love is Jordan Love. Jane Reed is banged up. What if he doesn't play? Then you got Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and no run game. So basically Detroit can say, we don't even have to like commit a lot of extra assets to the run. You can't beat us with the run. So we could just make you one-dimensional and you're not a good quarterback. So can you overcome that? So like, I think another way to go in this is to full fade the Packers. Like they legit could put up 3 points in this damn game.
I don't think that's a hot take though. I think most people are fading the Packers.
I mean, Maddie, you're looking at roster percentages. Is that true? Are all the Packers coming in like stupidly low?
I think Christian Watson might be like in like the 10% range or something like that.
Well, he might, but I mean, Jaden Reed's still stupid cheap. If he plays, he's going to be popular.
Yeah, Watson and Reed will end up being popular, and Kraft will be too if Musgrave.
Kraft will be uber
chalk.
Like he will be like 60 to 70%, considering he's a tight end that could play all the snaps.
I think we need to spend some time talking about Washington, honestly, because think about that game, right? Everybody is going to play just Dallas onslaught, right?
Yep.
So Dak, CD, Ferguson, Cooks, Cowboys defense.
Dallas D, yep.
Howell is going to be probably the lowest, if not the second lowest owned QB on the slate.
And he might lead the entire damn slate in passing attempts.
He's scored 4 straight DK points over 20.
Yeah, he only has 2 bad games all year.
He has 2 bad games all year. He throws the ball 40 plus times every single game. Some games he has 50.
Yep.
If let's say Washington has success on the offensive side of the ball, that will result in Dallas nuking. So you can play Dallas, a ton of Dallas, with Washington on the other side, and now you have just an absolute nuclear game.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's going to play Dallas without Washington, and if you get in your build, if Washington pushes them, yes, those people also have Dallas, but they don't have Washington. And so I think the Howell side is interesting because it 100% solidifies Dallas nuking, because there is just no way that Washington's defense stops them. They're playing too well. It's in Dallas. Dak has been absolutely smashing at home.
Tommy DeVito. All we have to say, Maddie, is Tommy DeVito just put up 3 tutties and that's it. Like end of analysis.
I have very minimal concerns, and also too, if Dallas has a lot of explosive plays, that means they're giving the ball back to Washington quickly, and if Washington can do the same, it gets back to Dallas quickly. So there's just a lot of makings for that game to just be the game.
I'm telling you right now, that game is going to have the best pace of the entire damn slate. Detroit is slow. Green Bay is slow. San Francisco is slow. Seattle is paced up, but what does that look like with a beat-up Geno Smith? Washington and Dallas both rank inside the top 10 in pace and neutral passing rates over the last 4 to 5 weeks. That is the game. If we're going to if I'm going to push my chips on one of these games going fucking nuclear, it's that damn game, because the other side of it is there are easy pressure points with the Dallas defense. Jordan Lewis in the slot has played terrible all year. He can't guard anybody. So you stay away from their outside corners. Curtis Samuel's live. Jahan Dotson, who runs about 50% in the slot, is live. There are easy ways for the Commanders to put up points in this one. And that honestly, that's the game. If I'm going to overstack one of these games and say, this is the game to play, it's that one.
And I do think so. Dallas defense is obviously good, right? And they're especially good at getting after the quarterback, which is the issue for Sam Howell, right? As he takes a league record amount of sacks, and that's why everybody's going to look to playing the Dallas D, which makes sense, right? It's a good play, but I mean, you look at who Dallas has played in terms of offenses, right? Carolina, the Giants, Philly, they gave up 28. The Rams with Stafford, who the Rams they've been okay this year. 17 to the Chargers. All right, that was a decent game, but that game still had some back and forth to it. San Fran, they allowed 42. The Patriots, Arizona, the Jets, and the Giants again. There really isn't a ton of oh man, they've played maybe 3 good offenses this year, and a couple of them, the Eagles and the 49ers have scored 28 and 42 points against them. There is, potential for Washington to put up points here, and I think you're going to see one piece, McLaurin is probably owned as a run back to the Dallas stack, or Curtis Samuel is probably owned as a run back to the Dallas stack. You are not going to see Howell with 2 of those guys, Howell with 3 guys.
You won't even see double run backs, Maddie.
No.
If you see somebody onslaught Dallas, they'll bring 1 player back. I promise you nobody's going to bring 2 of them back. Before we kind of keep going through this, you talked about the Cowboys defense. I think there's a really good conversation since we're on that game to talk about full fading them. I mean, if you look at, like, yes, they have points of 21, 15, 27, 15, 37. Okay, but if you look over the last few weeks, in between all of that, they play the Giants, they put up 8. They play the Eagles, they put up 2. They play the Chargers, they put up 4, -1. Like, there are a lot of spots where the Dallas DST has not smashed. And if they aren't, like, they're going to be, I mean, come on, guys. Like, are we in agreement here? Like, they're going to be the most damn popular defense of the
they'll be
entire
they'll be
freaking slate.
30%,
Like,
no doubt about it.
35%. Yeah.
Easily. And I think there's a great conversation just to full fade them. And you're going to, again, we're talking about being auto different.
Yeah.
Like that's an easy way, because there are a lot of, this is not the Patriots from like a few years ago where it's like every damn week they get defensive touchdowns. That defense has been a roller coaster. And there's a lot of other things in their game logs of 2 points, 4 points, 3 points, to where you're like, shit, why did I eat this chalk?
Yeah.
No, but the one thing that I will say, D-Bro, that makes me worried about full fading them is, just opportunistic and how the Washington offensive line has played. Okay, sacks. And then how Sam Howell has played, which you're saying the pass heavy rate. Like, so there's going to be opportunities for them to make plays on the football, because
I think the interesting thing, Ryan, is honestly to play the Dallas defense and play the full game stack, because if they get a defensive touchdown from the hop, okay, well, Commanders are getting pushed. You could still have points on top of that. Like, there's,
I agree.
I think the better conversation to be different is to full stack that damn game and play the Dallas defense.
Yeah, that's a great call.
I also think with this game too, and when you talk about the Commanders, that how cheap their offense is. I mean, they're very much in the same range as the Packers, where you have McLaurin at 5,400, and then Jahan Dotson's 46, and then Curtis Samuel is all the way down at 3,600. So I mean, and then the rest of their guys are like men. So even at tight end, I mean, you're talking about Logan Thomas is not expensive either. He's 3,500. So it's a very cheap stack as well. If you want
to, it's a 49 total. I just looked.
I expect Logan Thomas to be super
and people aren't going to stack that game. They're not going to stack that game.
Yeah, they're going to see an 11-point spread. They're going to load up. I mean, we just saw the Raiders just push, Miami a little bit. It's these 14-point, favorites, and I just don't think it's the same as when they're favored. When Dallas has been favored this much against the Giants and the Jets over the last couple of weeks, and the Panthers. So it's. Yeah, I just think it's a different game this week, and I would take Washington plus 11 personally, and I think the over is a solid play there too.
Yeah.
Well, what always interests me too when we talk about these situations is like, okay, like, we're talking about Dak doubles and, Washington bringbacks. But what about Sam Howell? What about Sam Howell on that side? And just saying, okay, do we know where the production's going on Dallas? Like, yeah, it can go to just CeeDee Lamb. Maybe it goes to Jake Ferguson and you play him instead of the stack with Logan Thomas, because Jake Ferguson's just been eating outside of CeeDee. Like, is there merit there to have Sam Howell be the leverage play on the slate to where he ends up with, 28, 30 points from a fantasy perspective, and you getting his guys right and just getting all the points on Dallas on the other side?
People are not going to play Sam Howell. If they're going to go to the 6K range, they're going to play Jared Goff. They're going to play Purdy, and then they'll play Jared Goff, and then people would decide between Sam Howell and Geno. People are not going to freaking play Sam Howell.
Also, Saquon had a lot of success last week on the ground against Washington, and Washington's quietly given up, 5 yards per carry over the last 3 games, which has not been in line with their whole season long stats. So and Pollard is starting to get healthy. Pollard is starting to get healthy.
So
the last 4 weeks they've allowed the 12th highest. The 4.37 is what I have over the last 4 weeks, was 12th highest rate in the league. They've also allowed the 9th highest yards after contact per attempt as well. So there for the Commanders. So yes, you definitely can run the ball against them.
So I don't know if we want to switch this over to running backs, Ryan.
Yeah, because I think this is gonna be, because it's
we've been bouncing all over. So I've left the scheme.
But when it comes to the running backs, though, like it's either are you paying up at that price tag for Christian McCaffrey, or I think a really solid play is just playing both the Lions running backs. just getting all the
Yep.
production there.
I love
Yep,
that.
I
Because
love
they
that.
I love
are
that.
in a credible spot.
If
this
that
week.
game fails, it's because the running backs get all their points. And
Yep.
there's a really good I love that, Kev, because there's a good conversation. Okay, the Detroit Lions score 30 points and all 4 of the touchdowns go to the running backs. That's possible.
And I like the idea of pairing those two with the Lions defense as well.
Lions defense.
Yes.
So
Cowboys
if you look at it since
Yep.
since
Damn right.
since Monty's come back, Gibbs has basically played about 58% of the snaps, but Monty's handled about 57% of the rush attempts. And obviously Gibbs has been fantastic. And like I said, over the since he's been back, over the last 4 games, Gibbs has averaged 26.2 DK points per game, and then Monty's averaged about 18.8 DK points per game since returning. So both of them are obviously hot. And then, like I said, the Packers defense has allowed the 12th most rushing yards. They've also allowed the 13th highest explosive run rate in the league as well. So this is obviously a fantastic matchup. You get all of the production from both of those guys. You're feeling you're solid whatever the game script is that you're going to be able to cover. And this just is an incredible matchup. Like the only way they really, I feel like, fail is if, like, I don't know, something crazy happens and the line just gets smacked, which nobody's expecting that.
Would you like to know who is 3rd in red zone rushing rate in the NFL this year?
The Lions.
Detroit Lions, baby.
Oh yeah, I mean that's that.
And for some reason, the field is not on Green Bay as a good spot to play running backs against because the last couple of weeks, I don't know.
That's crazy.
The last couple of weeks, Najee Harris was low owned at 4,900 against them.
Because he's Najee. Najee.
And then,
him and Jalen Warren both smashed.
Yeah, him and Jalen Warren smashed.
Nobody played either one of them.
Last week, nobody played Eckler, and sure, the Eckler play didn't work out, but Eckler was ripping off big runs. They just didn't go to him.
Well, and the other thing about it is, like, if you watched any of the Eckler, like, he looked like a damn fullback out there running. Like, he does,
and he's still ripping off big runs. So
exactly,
that's
like
boosting my argument.
I think if I had to make a decision,
you're right. Like, there are 2 of those runs where, like, he should have housed them, but you were like,
David Montgomery is my favorite play on the is my favorite running back play.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
He's a cheaper option. I love David Montgomery this week.
I agree.
Yeah. They have got something going there with that backfield, and I think it's
especially with how Goff looked last week against Chicago, right?
It's very much like the Saints of a few years ago when it was Kamara and Mark Ingram when they both just went off that year. It's very much similar to that.
So, I think the other thing too, D-Bro, just real quick, not to go to wide receiver, but like I expect Amon-Ra to be pretty popular just from the standpoint of like what the expected total is going to be. And he's put together, some pretty decent weeks. He scores a touchdown or he gets 100 yards, like similar to the Will Fuller narrative that from a couple of years ago. That seems to be what he's been doing. But we have not seen those like smash output games. Now, of course, he could have those, but like I really don't like on a small game slate right here locking up that salary into Amon-Ra and him only coming back, with 15, 16 points. Like I just don't think it's going to get it done from that perspective. So being able to leverage that is an interesting one because you're not only like taking the low owned plays from the running back position, but you're also then not going to combine them with a high owned wide receiver from that same team.
So I want to roll this back real fast because I think it's another decision point for this slate. To play CMC or not to play CMC. And I'm not saying that you lock him and I'm not saying that you full fade him, but if the field, where do y'all think the field comes in at? 60%?
They're going to want to play him.
I don't think it's that high, but yeah, I think it's high.
I mean, so we put it 50. Say it's 50. Are you going to be, I want to toss this to everybody. Are you going to be over the field or under the field on CMC on this slate? And dude, I'm honestly thinking about being under. Like, so at 8,700, he has to absolutely smash. And we haven't seen that. Like, if you look at his game logs, like, he's been really good. But at 8,700, 21 points, 20 points, 29, 23, 14, 14, 22. Outside of 51 points, and maybe that gets you there, okay? But at the same time, there's so many other running backs that can put up 20 to 25 or maybe get us to high 20s. Like Gibbs can do that. Monty can do that. Pollard, if that game goes off, you want to play Oppo. But like we have definitively like 2 guys on this slate that are not priced up like that in Gibbs and Monty.
And that's
Walker. Well, and to me, I think there's a better conversation not to lock CMC, but to lock Charbonnet. He's going to get 25 plus opportunities. He's cheap as shit. He got 21 opportunities last week in a terrible matchup. You can run all over San Francisco this year. So I know I've talked about a lot of different things. I want to throw this back around the table real fast. Are y'all going to be over or underweight CMC if he's at 50%? I'm under.
I'll likely be under 2 just from that being the last game of the slate. I mean, CD Lamb is the best play on the slate to me, and I know we're not at wide receiver, but like I'm going to be playing so much CD Lamb that I might not be able to get to Christian McCaffrey as much, which will lead me to being under the field. I want to try and get them both in, but I'm loving the 2 running back situation from Detroit. So I think from a positional standpoint, I might not even be able to play Christian McCaffrey, because if I get the 2 Detroit running backs and I'm going to play, Charbonnet in the flex, then that might not lead me to get to him, and I'll probably get try and get Ayuk, trying to get Kittle, like hope that Purdy is getting 1, 2, 3 touchdowns, but maybe 2 of those go to the San Fran player that I have, and McCaffrey gets his 1, but that's it.
My favorite 2 running backs of this entire slate are David Montgomery and Zach Charbonnet. But Kev, over or under on CMC?
Here's the thing. We are talking on this slate. If you're talking about with CeeDee Lamb, just how incredible that matchup is for him. Mm-hmm. This matchup is just as incredible for Christian McCaffrey. Seattle has been absolutely fucking dog shit against running backs, and it's not even close. They have been. We talk about the Packers. Seattle's in a different class. They have allowed 5.3 yards per carry over the last 4 games. They're every metric they are at the top of. They have allowed yards after contact per attempt. It is them by themselves.
Some of that is skewed massively by that Baltimore week, though. Big time. Huge. Kind of like what the Dolphins did to the Broncos.
Okay. But I mean,
they're still not good. I'm not going to say that they're good, but it's skewing the numbers a lot.
I also just think McCaffrey is just kind of matchup proof, and he's a lock to get you 20 to 25.
He's a lock. Yeah. Every single week to get you 20.
From a raw point standpoint, he is a lock to be one of the top 3 scorers on the slate from a position player standpoint. Mm-hmm. So it's a matter of it just comes down to value, the value guys with him, right? Because if McCaffrey gets outscored by Lamb, there is a way you could play both of them, but you're going to have to nail the value guys, and the value guys are going to have to outscore the Gibbses and the Montgomerys, and
Well, what if the value guys fail? What if the Green Bay just lays a turd? They all suck. You know what I mean? What if the punts don't get there?
That's what I'm saying. It becomes an interesting dynamic. It's such a hard question to answer because the raw score he gives you absolutely is valuable, especially on a 3-game slate. On a full slate, the 9K guys are much tougher to fit, and you can't play multiple of them on a full slate. But on a 3-game slate, things get kind of weird, and raw points do matter because there's not as many big scores across only 3 games. So the 20 to 25 guarantee pretty much is definitely valuable. But it becomes a matter of, what are the values going to do for me?
But Maddie, you're playing. I know you're a 3 max guy. Are you playing? How many teams are you going to play with CMC? Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3?
I'm going to have 0 teams that do not have CD Lamb on them. So if I can get CMC with Lamb to work in a build, then I will play CMC.
Well, you sidestepping that like a politician. How many teams are you going to play CMC on?
It's hard to know without building. I haven't built yet.
Are you going to try to be over or under the field?
I would like to play him, yes. He is not my first high price click. No.
If you got to lock somebody, to me, it's locking CD Lamb, and then it's Lamb. I get McCaffrey on something?
You can easily play Christian McCaffrey and CD Lamb together. It's not hard.
You can.
Right?
No, I think the question is, Kev, is if you're not taking the value from the Packers side in that first game.
If you're going with a lot of these mid-rounds guys, you can't play 2 of them.
Oh, there's other value though than just the Packers. There's definitely value in we talked.
Well, I know that, but the popular build is going to be stars and scrubs. So a lot of these guys in the
Right.
middle range are going to get left out. So if you're
Exactly.
prioritizing the mid range,
Right.
you're not going to be able to play CMC
Correct.
and Lamb. You will not.
Right.
It will be.
So
it
you
will
got
be
to
like,
pick one of them.
It's going to be CMC. So popular build, I can tell you, is going to be like CMC Lamb with like Charbonnet or Pollard, and then it's going to be the
it's gonna be
Packers
Charbonnet.
guys, with like probably JSN if DK gets ruled out.
Mhm.
You know,
I mean,
and,
play Seattle's
Cowboys defense.
I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, you play Seattle's defense, and you play one other. You find one other pay down, and you can easily get there. I mean, it's not. It's not. Everybody's kind of like they're like the way that the pricing is set up this week. It makes it pretty easy to be able to get there. Like I played around with building lineups with being able to get both of them in there, and it's not like I don't like. Oh man, I hate this team. Like, this team looks awful.
Yeah, but you're probably like you said. Well, you're going to punt
punting
defense,
at a lot
which
of
is
different
fine.
spots.
But
I'm always going to punt defense. But
yeah, well, that's fine. I'm cool
That's
with that.
fine. But
then you're
what
probably
I'm
going to
saying
punt
is-
tight end. So probably Tucker Kraft. If he gets you 3 and Ferguson goes for, let's say that game does go nuclear, and all of a sudden Ferguson again goes for 8 for 90 and 2 scores. You have to have had Ferguson, and your Tucker Kraft play is irrelevant. It's just irrelevant. So
or if Kittle puts up 25
or Kittle
or
puts up
30
25 again,
and
so
buries your ass.
Yeah,
like,
so
or
that's
Sam
what I mean.
Laporta
When,
puts up 25. Like
the,
do
the
that.
value plays in theory sound good to get to McCaffrey, but they still have to deliver because there are guys on the slate that can just explode.
I
So
mean, to me,
I do think yes.
prioritizing
I think
Lamb.
from an actual
I'm
like
playing-
clicking guys and putting them on a team, it is somewhat easy to get CD and McCaffrey together. But the upside of like that team across the board, I just don't know if I like that idea more than like going with mid-range guys like Monty and Gibbs and Pollard and getting those guys in there with Lamb instead of CMC Lamb and then Packers and Seahawks guys.
Right, but like just playing around with the lineup. Like let's say you go with the Commanders, right? And you go Sam Howell, you go McLaurin and Logan Thomas as the stack. Then you run it back with CeeDee Lamb. You have Christian McCaffrey and David Montgomery, all in a lineup, right? And then from there you have the Seahawks at D, and then you really just have to come up with with two separate options at wide receiver and flex. You still have it's $4,400 a piece available for them. To be able to get there.
So
like that's not like
spots. Well, you're actually punting 3 spots. So
well, sure, but it's also a 3-game slate. Like there's not like what other pay up options outside of basically you're saying I'm not playing Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, there's a couple other guys, Brandon Ayuk 7K, but then everybody else is 5K and below. Like I mean, it's DK Metcalf, sorry, and Tyler Lockett, but at wide receiver. But for the most part, what I'm saying is there's all these other options. Like we're not like this isn't like there's holes to be poked at this. Like basically, you have to make a decision on okay, if you're going to play Christian McCaffrey, you're okay with not playing Amon-Ra St. Brown, in the CeeDee Lamb stack, or with Ayuk. But I mean, it's not past that. Like you can get to Chris, you can play a Tyler Lockett if you want to, or something like that. Like that's still within the range of possibilities of a build that you can put together.
I mean, not with the way you just laid it out as 4,400 for the last 2 spots. You can't do that, Kev. Unless you're going to play Tucker Kraft in the damn flex, but you're not doing that because you said you're playing Monty. So you really can't do that.
Why can't you play Tucker Kraft in the flex?
Because you just said you're playing David Montgomery in that lineup you built.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey, David Montgomery at running back.
I thought you named off 3 running backs, but
no.
This is all to say. I'm telling you straight up, like Brandon Ayuk, Metcalf, Lockett, like these mid-range guys are all going to get forgotten about, and it's wrong.
I love it. I love
Kittle
the conversation.
Too. Kittle's another mid-range, yeah.
Kittle is gonna. I'm in on playing Kittle in the damn flex this week. Like I'm fine. There's a lot of other like cheaper tight end options, but Kittle, he's a 6K wide receiver that can give you 25.
Yeah, you have to treat him as a wide receiver.
When you talk about like DK Metcalf, right? Like what ceiling has DK Metcalf shown you this year? He's shown you none.
Dude, he is danced around monster games the entire damn year.
Right. True, but
94 yards, 98 yards, 112.
Right. What running back has that, or what player on the slate for that matter has a positional player has a higher ceiling than Christian McCaffrey?
Nobody. But have we seen that ceiling outside of once, Kev? He's put up a 50 burger once. Every other game has been 20. You can get that from
So
Gibbs
there's
and
two
Montgomery.
players, correct? There's two players, correct? There's CeeDee Lamb and there's Amon-Ra St. Brown are the only two that's in the conversation.
For what? To give you what, 20, 30?
That can, let's say, score 30 plus.
I think 30 plus. Yeah.
Brandon
I don't
Ayuk
even
could do that. I think Brandon Ayuk could do that. He
You're
almost did that last.
spreading it thin to make it happen.
No, I'm not.
Like,
if he'd have scored
confidently?
last week, he would have done mid-30s. He'd have had 36 last week. I'm not spreading shit then. Like that.
I think I agree with Kev. I think it's Amon-Ra and Lamb.
And so that's the decision point. That, to me, that's where it is. Like it's like, because Christian McCaffrey, it wouldn't shock anybody if he scores 50. Like, it wouldn't be like, oh man, where did that come from? That's fucking crazy. Like, but he's also, his ceiling or his floor is so secure. Outside of an injury happening to him, like, you're not going to be tilting if he has a bad day, because they just don't happen very often for him.
I guess my question is, if he hits the floor and you can get the same production by playing Gibbs at 6,800, Pollard at like all these other guys in the 6K, does CMC make the optimal? And I don't know that I can definitely tell you yes. Like, I get the floor reason, but I just don't know if we see the ceiling. We could see the ceiling, but for most of the season, we haven't.
I'll say, if we see CMC's floor of 20 to 25, he's not in the optimal.
Not if Gibbs and Montgomery put up 20.
Depending on how everything else goes, sure.
Because I think Charbonnet can get close to.
Yes,
he's going to be around 15 is what I would confidently project him for, given his pass game usage. And then you have Pollard, who can do well, which we already talked about. He's getting healthier and metrics are looking better. Washington's been dog shit last couple of weeks, whatever. And then we talked about Montgomery. He can score 25 plus. So Pollard can score 25 plus. Gibbs can score 25. Charbonnet can get you 15. And so if McCaffrey ends up at 20 to 25, I think those mid-range guys, I think that's going to be the optimal build, because you're going to have 4 or 5 guys that get you that 20 to 25 as opposed to, McCaffrey. But if McCaffrey gets you 35, I don't think it's even a question. I think he's optimal. Right
the
away,
last time Montgomery played the Packers, he got us 37. So, I mean, he gets over 30.
Listen, I've already said I love David Montgomery, so I'm not going to argue with that. But that was also a completely different time when how Jahmyr Gibbs was being utilized and everything else. I am not at all knocking the play. Like I said, I love David Montgomery. That's not what I'm trying to do. But all I'm saying is, like, that's a little bit different to go back to that game, and say that happened, right? But this isn't if you play Christian McCaffrey, you can't play David Montgomery. I've already said you can, right? Like it's definitely possible.
It just gets thin.
You're gonna get, but my whole point is that you're gonna like. I feel like that's gonna be the popular build.
Yeah, you're gonna keyhole yourself because there's only so many options.
I mean, maybe that's the build that wins, but if the punts fail, then a lot of these mid-range guys that are going to get overlooked.
Like, every Thanksgiving slate, there's that guy. There's that guy.
You're not wrong, but I mean, saying that as a general rule is also going to get you in some trouble. So,
well, and to have that guy, Kev, it's usually like, not. It's the Antonio Gibsons of whatever that was 3 years ago, like on the Washington.
Shit, what was that? 2 years in a row?
It's 2 years in a row, right? Exactly. It's these underlying guys who tend to pop off, who allow you to be able to have these plays. And so, like, from the CMC standpoint, and listen, like, I will not have a team, like, Debro, to your point. Like, if CMC is my only late player, I'm not having a team. Like, that's just going to be so much of a popular build where it's like, all right, so I'm going to build this roster, and then I just got to have CMC late, and that's it. Like, I would want to have like a CMC Kittle, CMC Ayuk, or
you want to leave, like, you're talking about the late swap. You want to leave 2 spots if you're building with CMC. Like, I want to leave 2 spots. I want to be able to 2v2 that.
Yeah, and
which is probably CMC and Charbonnet is going to be the popular 2v2 there later. At least
I like
the 2 guys
personally, but
so if Metcalf plays, I freaking love Metcalf. San Francisco's been running a shit ton of 2 high. Metcalf is their guy. Like he crushes versus 2 high. I mean, a single high. Excuse me.
Debro, stay in that same lane. Let's talk about receiver. And we're talking about these guys, right?
Yeah.
For, Seattle. And I do think Jackson Smith and Jigba has been getting, some run late. We're talking about them in the late game. Like we talked about the Washington side of things in that Dallas game with them to be able to push. Like we can get back to the Packers and Lions game as well, too. Like if are there any options at all? Like not from the Packers side of things, but like is Josh Reynolds a viable? Is Jameson Williams finds Spader last week, but he can take one to the house, anytime if he can be trusted. Like, are there any of these guys who I guess maybe the low to mid tier range is where I'm going to place them at before we get into like the Metcalf Lockett conversation that can make it feel palatable and digestible to get these guys into lineups, especially in that first game?
I mean, Jaden Reed and Romeo Dobbs would be my picks there. And this is assuming Jaden Reed plays. Detroit's been terrible versus slot wide receivers. My only problem with Jaden Reed, which thinking through all of their injuries, I think that we're going to see a lot of Jaden Reed, or at least a lot of like what you've seen Green Bay do this entire year is they'll have some games where they use a lot of 11 personnel, and then next game, lots of 12, shit tons of 12. Jaden Reed plays like 30% of the snaps. But since we're talking about all the injuries, Luke Musgrave is not playing. Josiah DeGuara is not playing. They're going to run a shit ton of 11 personnel because they don't have enough tight ends to run 12. So I think you're going to see a lot of Jaden Reed.
It might be 20. I would say they would run 21 personnel. They don't
even have the running back.
But my argument is also they don't have the receivers to run 11 personnel.
I mean, that's fair.
I mean, because Wicks is banged up too.
But also with that, Maddie, that also makes it a little bit easier though, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
We've had this entire giant Packers wide receiver rotation the entire year. Like one guy gets full-time snaps,
consolidated,
and now it could get consolidated. So as much as like I was shitting on the Packers earlier, this is also becoming a situation that's a little bit easier to understand. And it's like the numbers themselves, like the fact that the Lions run a lot of zone coverage and things like that, the numbers. And Maddie, you'll have to tell me, where's Romeo Dobbs checking in at? Like he feels like the grossest click of this entire slate. But if you look at all of his usage, dude,
every week
he scores every damn week. Yeah. We don't see the receiving upside, but again, do we see the yardage come through in this game? He's not going to be freaking popular.
No, yeah,
he's legit top 10 in red zone targets in the NFL amongst all pass catchers. And I doubt you'd hear a lot of people sitting here touting that to people. But he scored a shit ton of touchdowns. He has 2 touchdown upside. And in this game script where things are getting more consolidated, people just saw the big game from Jaden Reed, but honestly, that was fluky because he had 46 freaking rushing yards in that game. So does he get some of that usage in this game? Sure, maybe. But if I got to pick out one Packers guy, probably just like roster percentage, touchdown upside, everything all together, probably my favorite dude is Romeo Dobbs, man.
I like it. I like the call.
It's Jaden Reed, but I mean,
well, tell me why, Kev. Tell me why I'm wrong. I'll just walk away from it.
Simply, he is the best wide receiver that's on that roster. He's the most explosive player that's on that roster. I think what you saw last week,
he could get more rush attempts too.
As the rush attempts is not going away. I think it's a thing. I think you could probably see him fall into that like 4 to 5 rush attempps. Yeah. I think it's smart with the way they utilize them. Like I said, I mean, how explosive he is, short area quickness, a lot of stuff that we saw from him out of Michigan whenever he came into the league. So it makes sense for that. Like, I don't mind Romeo Dobbs. Like, I mean, he leads the team with a 19% target share. He has a really healthy average depth of target as well. Like, I don't mind that play call of going there. But Jaden Reed, he is also somebody that they look to inside the red zone quite at a decent clip. Mm-hmm. He's also somebody that, like I said, that can kind of play any type of role that they want him to. And I do think that he's somebody that they're going to utilize as a running back because, I mean, their running backs are fucking awful. A.J. Dillon looks like a really extremely poor man's XFL version of Jerome Bettis out there trying to run.
He looks like Matt Asiata, baby. That's what he looks like.
Yes, it's awful. It's gross. And so, like, I think you see them utilize somebody like Jaden Reed in those spots and being able to utilize him similarly what you would have done with Aaron Jones. So I think, and he's only $4,200. And so it's hard not to love Jaden Reed. Like, we've ignored Jaden Reed all year. It feels like it's that nobody's ever all that excited about him. And I get it because he hasn't really shown like a huge ceiling. But over the last 2 weeks, I mean, he has put up top 12 DK points each of the last 2 games. I mean, so that's real. Like, and so I'm just saying, like, he seems to always be the guy that people look over, and he shouldn't be. Like, he should be valued as probably the best point for dollar in terms of value play. He's the best. Like, I don't think you're gonna be able to make a strong case for anybody else other than him. And so I think he's a strong play. Could Christian Watson get there? Sure. Maybe without Wicks, maybe all of a sudden now he starts seeing some actual deep targets more often. But like, I'm tired of chasing Christian Watson. Like, everyone keeps chasing him. You know, like, I am to the point where Christian Watson is a fucking bum. Like, he's not good. Like, he's not a good NFL wide receiver. Like, he's not.
Oh,
like,
boy.
We can stop with the chasing and the
chamber.
well, it's this, it's that, it's something else. Like if all these other players are being used and Christian Watson's not, like, if it sounds like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's probably a fucking duck. So if you're not seeing targets, then you probably
kind of hurts your ability to catch deep targets when your quarterback sucks ass at throwing deep. But
I mean, if that's all he can do, then that's all he is, right? That's all he is, right? He's a Ted
that's all he's
Ginn
being
wannabe.
used as. Last year's show, that's not all he is.
Typically speaking, history says that this far into your second season, he basically had the fluke little run there of a couple of games. Like, he's willful.
Those were with Aaron Rodgers too,
right?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, at this point, I am done chasing Christian Watson. If he burns me, he fucking burns me. But I don't care. I'm done paying US dollars for fucking Christian Watson's sorry ass. The
numbers also back you up, Kev, because his downfield role, Detroit's given up a shit ton of production and passing, but they're elite at defending the deep ball. So his role, like that, and all of his numbers really heavily lean towards man coverage. His usage, which, yeah, like over the last 5 weeks, Detroit's top 5 in man coverage rate, but that's still only 35% of their snaps. So there's still a zone heavy defense.
Yep.
So.
And we've been going now for a whole almost hour and 10 minutes, D-Bro, and I have yet to hear your Jameson Williams take. You said you were going to hear about it.
I'm going to tell you.
So actually, like, if you kind of look at some of the numbers, his numbers are trending up. Like, his routes are trending up. Last week he played 66% of the snaps. He saw almost 10% of the targets.
So you tee me up for the JMO take, but you're taking it from me so you can tout him when he pops off. Is that what you're Kev?
Exactly.
That's what I feel like I'm getting right now.
I am trying to tee you up for the question because this is what I was going to say. Is when you first said it, I had the same visceral reaction that Maddie did whenever you first brought him up. I think it was yesterday, whatever, when you hyped it up or teased it.
When Maddie said, "Is that a side dish?"
Yeah, Ryan. I said, yeah, Ryan. Derek said he's got some JMO love for Thursday, and I said, "Is that a side dish for Thanksgiving?"
The only excuse
you mean to say jams?
Because some people could say that, isn't he very similar to Christian Watson? Second-year player, hasn't really done a whole lot. But I would back on that. Obviously, he missed all last year because of the ACL injury. So that being said, I'm not going to say it and talk about it anymore. So let us know why you love Jameson Williams, especially at his price. He's $34.
I think he is the punt to play this week. He's going to be 8 to 10% rostered. Nobody's going to play him. Like Kev just talked about, that man just quietly played a career high in snaps. He played 65% of the damn snaps last week. And unlike Christian Watson's matchup, where I said Detroit is really damn good at against the deep ball, the Green Bay Packers suck. They're terrible. Mm-hmm. Since let me see. Let me go back here.
I think he's actually just good too, personally.
Well, so Green Bay.
That's still banged up too, D-Bro. Jair, I don't think will be playing.
Jair's not 100%. Like their other corners are not good, man. Green Bay has allowed the 8th highest passer rating and the 4th highest adjusted completion rate. Kev just bounced out of here because he didn't want to hear the JMO take. You hate to see it. But with Jameson Williams, man, Green Bay's terrible versus deep passing. And the other side of this dude is since week 7 against single high, this guy has 25% air yard share. And since week 6, Green Bay's utilized single high at the 6th highest rate, 63% of their snaps. I think Jameson Williams is the punt option of the week because, if he's going to play 65%, and his snaps have gone up in each of the last 3 weeks, he legit could get to 70 or 75% of the snaps.
None of the
in
value
a
guys
smash
have this
matchup.
ceiling.
No. In a part-time role, he's already popped off with at his price, he's already shown us he can give us what we need at that price.
Right.
Like he has multiple games with like 40 or 50 in a score. You get that out of a 3K wide receiver, you're running naked. Like people are like, holy fuck, why are you running naked through the damn Thanksgiving lunch? Like, what are we doing here? He gives you 20 or 25. You're cutting backflips, baby.
I think a realistic ceiling, without getting crazy, I think a realistic ceiling for him is like 4 for 80 and a tutty.
Yeah, which is
that puts you at 18.
18. So I think he can knock on the door of 20.
Yep, I would agree.
Which is like a one for 50 goes for the house, and then he's
going to be what? He's going to be what? 10%, 12% play, if that.
Yeah, it's going to
like be he's the leverage guy. If you're not playing Amon-Ra St. Brown, you need to either play David Montgomery or you play JMO or you play both.
You can play both. Especially if you're not playing Gibbs.
Dude, you literally could play Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, and Jameson Williams and get all the damn touchdowns. Like, that's not crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions are them and the Cowboys are the two best offenses on the slate and are in good spots to put up a ton of points. So just getting the exposure to those touchdowns on those offenses makes a ton of sense. So
I think the two best, like JMO is my favorite punt of the entire slate. But honestly, I think the two best leverage plays of this entire slate, like looking off the high-end guys, are Jameson Williams and George Kittle. They're the two best leverage plays. Because if JMO gets there, Amon-Ra possibly doesn't. If George Kittle smashes, CMC goes for 20.
That's fair.
And Kev now gets back here after I finished the JMO take.
As soon as you're done, he slides back in.
Yeah, of course. He didn't want to hear.
I heard everything you said. I heard the whole thing.
Okay, so tell me where I'm wrong, Kev. Or are you riding with JMO with me?
Where did I? I didn't.
No,
say
I'm
I
asking.
didn't say negative about it.
I'm asking. Are you in with the JMO play?
Yeah, I think he's live. I think he's a viable play. I mean, I think we're starting to see it trend up, and I think. Which they should. I mean, you have to see what you have in this guy. You spent a first-round pick on him last year, and he was coming off an ACL injury last year, which is why we never saw him. So this is really his de facto rookie year. And we typically see in the second half of seasons that, these guys pop off. Rookies tend to pop off in the second half of the season, especially wide receivers. And so that very well could be what we're seeing from him. So it wouldn't shock me if he saw more targets than people think. And if he's not going to be owned, then yeah, I think you have to consider him in your pool. If he's
not, is he, Matty? Like I can't believe he'd be popular. Nobody's going to play him.
No.
Like in his price range, people are going to play any one of the Green Bay guys, and they're going to play Curtis Samuel. They're not going to play Jameson Williams.
He has that high leverage touches that you want to see. He has that deep roll. His average depth of target is 16.6 on the season, which is solid.
Since he came back, he leads the team in deep targets.
Yeah, I do think Curtis Samuel is going to get some steam.
Oh, he's gonna be very popular. I agree.
I think Curtis Samuel's gonna.
He's gonna be the only guy that people want to play from the Commanders. That's the only guy that people will want to play. They're not gonna play Brian Robinson. They're not gonna play all these other guys.
No, not with Gibson being back. What about Jahan Dotson?
He's not. No, people ain't gonna play him.
I love Jahan.
It's gonna be McLaurin and Samuel. Those are gonna be the two Commanders.
I think Jahan Dotson might be my favorite Commanders wide receiver because. The reason everybody's going to go to Curtis Samuel if they're looking at the numbers is because Jordan Lewis has been terrible. The other side of that is Jahan Dotson runs 50% of his routes from the freaking slot. So he's going to see a good bit of Lewis.
Is that in weeks Samuel has played as well?
So,
because that's big, right? Because Samuel has missed a lot of time and he got ejected really early last week.
Yeah. Here, I'll pull it up. Somebody else wants to roll through it.
Cody's asking about Tolbert.
I can't play Tolbert if he's going to play 50% of the snaps.
Each of the last 3 weeks or something like that. I mean, some of that was in garbage.
He's live, but it's just 150s. Like I can't play him if I'm doing single or 3 max. Like I'll play Jameson Williams.
Him and Gallup's role is just so small on that offense because
they're cannibalizing each other.
Yeah, think about the hierarchy, right? It's obviously Lamb, and then it's Ferguson, and then it's Cooks, and then it's one of Gallup and Tolbert. And I think that.
And they're also losing. They're losing routes to freaking Turpin too.
Yeah, and that's not even factoring in Pollard, and then Turpin gets mixed in. I just think that after those main guys, it just gets really gross, and I just don't think
Yeah, and if you look at him, really since week 8, that's pretty much what's happened.
Yeah.
Gallup went from a player that was playing or running around 70 to 80% of the routes, and
Yep.
then since week 8, Gallup is 51%, 49%, 50%, and 45%, and then Tolbert same. Well, it was the same situation where he was running barely no routes, and then all of a sudden in week 8 it was 44, 43,
Yep.
53%, and 40%. So they basically, like you said, cannibalize each other a little bit. I don't mind, if you sprinkled a little bit of him in just because he is out there running routes. He is on the best offense. In all legitimacy, he doesn't have to do a ton. He's in the same conversation as, just a pure punt play at $3,100. But as a part of a stack or something like that, or
You pretty much need him to score.
Well, and the other thing for him to make the optimal, it's not only does he have to score, the other punts around him have to score less. They have to fail.
The thing is, though,
for him to make the
3K, in the 3K
Right.
range, if we're just talking about pure punts, there's Gallup, there's Samuel, there's Josh Reynolds, there's Jameson Williams, and then Wicks probably isn't playing, so he's out. And then it's, past that, what's Juwan Jennings, Jameson Crowder, Jalen Tolbert, Khalif Raymond. There's not like maybe Samaje Toure was, if maybe he gets a little more run.
Oh, that's a good call. Yeah, if Wicks is out, he's going to get run.
Yeah, it'll be him and Heath, right?
To go back to an earlier conversation, so weeks 1 through 7, when all 3 of those guys were full-time players, yeah, Samuel had a 71% slot share, and Jahan Dotson was at 44%, running 44% of his routes. Yeah, he's almost half of his routes out of the slot, so he's going to get Jordan Lewis, and he's not going to be played. Like, nobody's playing Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, he's also kind of in that dead zone too. He's $4,600. He's not.
He's going to get forgotten about.
Yeah.
What about the Seattle wide receivers, D? You were talking about them to kind of start this off when we were going to wide receiver, and I wanted to talk about them. Who are you to be able to play Seattle wide receivers? Where are you willing to sacrifice, and who are you sacrificing to be able to fit them in?
Running back, I'll sacrifice playing CMC. I'll play. I don't know if I'm going to make, to be honest, guys, I don't know if I'm going to make a lineup without CeeDee Lamb in it. So, I'm starting all my lineups with CeeDee Lamb in them. And then if I have to sacrifice, I'll sacrifice Amon-Ra and I'll play a Detroit running back, or I'll play JMO. I will sacrifice playing CMC, and I'm just going to play a shit ton of Kittle. But I hope DK plays. Like, he absolutely just dominates, man. So like, since and when I bring this up, Kev, like the easy way to know, like looking at some of these things like single high versus, like, because everybody runs zone coverage. Like, even the most man coverage heavy teams in the NFL still run zone on 55 to 60% of their plays.
Right.
So even if we're talking about that, but if you look at like some of these teams, man versus zone, their safety coverage, and we always talk about cover 2 and teams playing cover 2 and having the 2 highest safeties. Not every team does that. So like, if you look at San Francisco since week 7, they've used single high on 56% of their snaps. DK Metcalf versus single high, and this is over the last 4 games. So basically a fully integrated JSN and Tyler Lockett playing his usual role. DK Metcalf versus single high, 28% target share, 52% of the air yards, 38% first read share. Like, he is fucking dominating shit. So I'm going to leave the light on for DK Metcalf for late swap. And with his price range, if he gets ruled out, I'll just play George Kittle. That's fine. But DK Metcalf is a fucking elite play.
I guess the only other thing that we really have, the player we've continually seemed to have skipped over here, has been the one of Amon-Ra St. Brown. And it feels like the belief is that we should be just like, he's not in the player pool for you guys, or it's not something that you have as much interest in. You'd rather play. Well, you're going to kind of have to, if you're not, if you're wanting to play CeeDee Lamb.
I'm not playing him.
Like,
you're not playing him?
You're not playing him.
I get the reasons why.
Brown is, there is not a safer wide receiver on this slate than not Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like, he consistently gets there. You can almost he almost always gets you that 100-yard bonus. He has multiple, almost every, all but 3 games this year has he not hit the 100-yard bonus. And CeeDee Lamb, definitely has some variance to him, right? Like he had that stretch, those 3 monster games of just explosion. But prior to that, he certainly wasn't that guy. And then last week he kind of fell back down a little bit. Obviously, it was a game script dependent and stuff like that because they were just dominated the Panthers. But Amon-Ra St. Brown has been Mr. Dependable all year. Like every single game, he is giving you. You can almost put him up for 20 DK points almost every single week. And so he's so damn consistent. He gets
just has no
opportunities inside the red zone.
ceiling.
Well, I mean, but okay. Aren't we having the same kind of conversation with Amon-Ra St. Brown we just freaking had with CMC? Like,
Yeah, but I'd rather play CMC because I know CMC has a ceiling.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
You did say earlier, Maddie, that you felt like CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown were in the same conversation as far as like being able to get to the 30-point threshold.
I mean,
yes, but I think Amon-Ra is less than the other two. And so
Amon-Ra's got 2 33-point outings, and then like outside of those, his game log looks almost like Christian McCaffrey: 21, 19, 26, 22, 18, 19, 16. Like there's not a lot of differences between his game log and CMC's.
Right, but there's the better possibility that CeeDee Lamb kills you because of one ownership. He's definitely going to be the highest owned wide receiver on the slate. And
as he should be, though.
No question.
I'm not. This isn't an argument that I'm saying that CeeDee Lamb's a bad play. I know. What I'm saying is, though, the variance is there that if he doesn't pop off, if things go differently, and he's not that guy, his ownership is going to be out of like. It is such a great leverage point of playing Amon-Ra St. Brown, and it's like he is like we haven't even really talked about him this entire time, and he's the guy that can easily kill you. Like. He has been, like I said, Mr. Consistent all year. You feel good he's going to give you 20. Like, there's a possibility that CeeDee Lamb gets you 12, right? 13. There's definitely a world there. We haven't really seen that with Amon-Ra St. Brown at all this year.
I'm kind of curious, Maddie. Like you said earlier, the Lions running backs are not popular, right? Or at least David Montgomery is. Is Jameer like
Gibbs isn't really either?
Well, then who the hell are they playing? Is nobody playing any Lions?
Pollard and
but I would imagine
literally the top guys.
Is nobody playing the damn Lions?
It's all Dallas.
Like, because I'm like, I'm putting that together. I'm like, wait a minute. You just said that the Lions running backs were not popular. I know people are going to play
McCaffrey and Dallas, and then values.
And people are going to play Lamb, and they're going to play McCaffrey over Amon-Ra. So, like, good Lord, I'm just going to play a shit ton of Lions on this slate. I see that.
Yep.
If people aren't going to play him, I mean, like that's wrong, man.
I'm pulling up to see what Amon-Ra did against the Packers last year.
There are some plays I feel like, and Amon-Ra needs to be in this conversation before we move it on to tight ends. I don't want to play Amon-Ra without playing a Packer on the other side.
Agree.
Like if Amon-Ra is getting there, somebody's pushing the boat on that side of the fence to be able to get him there. We've talked about a lot of players from an island standpoint who can kind of get there on their own accord, don't need to worry about what's happening on the other side. He's the one, like, it's hard to find a way that Amon-Ra gets 30 and it's not in a game scenario where it hasn't been pushed unless something happens to Gibbs and Montgomery both. But, like, if they're controlling that game and controlling the narrative and Montgomery and Gibbs are getting there, then Amon-Ra, he is a safe play. Like, he can probably get you like anywhere in the 15 to possibly 20 range just off the catches. But like to hit that 30 threshold, like somebody is going to have to push him.
For what it's worth, his 2 games against Green Bay last year, he had 4 catches for 55 yards, no scores, and 6 catches for 49 yards and no scores.
Right,
so,
but
I think
9 and 11.
Different situation, completely different.
I think his role is much more solid this year. I think like he is the definitive like.
He was like the hottest receiver down the second half of the season last year.
Is it 2 years ago? You're thinking?
No, this is last year.
No, last year.
Oh well, last year. Yeah,
they have already played this year, and he went 5 for 56 at a touchdown. But
that was also the Montgomery like 37-pointer,
right? And it was also they actually
which will happen again.
It was 27-3 at halftime. So
which will happen again.
That's a really good point as far as like you're saying, Maddie, like Montgomery happening again. Like I think we have a 2-game sample of that Detroit backfield, and now everybody's gonna say, well, I know exactly what it looks like. Like I mean, will we all be that damn surprised if Lions go back and David Montgomery gets 25 carries?
Well, he came back the Charger game, right?
Montgomery, yeah.
Yeah, so that was a back and forth shootout with the Chargers, and then they just played from behind the entire game against Chicago. Like we haven't seen
a positive game script
no,
with David Montgomery back yet.
No.
So this easily could be, and if that's the case, then I mean,
I like going back to what we opened the show with. I like the idea of playing both Lions running backs and not playing Amon-Ra.
Yeah, I think it's viable. I mean, the other thing about it is like, if I'm playing David Montgomery, if you want the leverage, I think the leverage on Amon-Ra is really easy. It's just play David Montgomery or play David Montgomery and Jameson Williams, or one of David Montgomery and either Jameson Williams or Sam Laporta. Because like the other thing that like we've seen over the last few weeks is the Lions have consolidated down. Like you don't have as much of like the Josh Reynolds and the Khalif Raymond bullshit. It's like legit. It's David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra, and Laporta. That is their 4 dudes. So like we know where the ball is going. You know where the touchdowns are going. You haven't like Josh Reynolds is vaporized. He's poof. He's gone. Khalif is gone. Poof. All these backup tight ends and another bullshit like that. That's all gone. So like the leverage points are trying to figure out. Okay, the Lions drop 30 on them. Where does that happen, or how does that go? It's not that damn difficult, man. Well, I think there's more of a case to onslaught Detroit in this game than there is a case to onslaught Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, I guess speaking of tight ends, I mean, we haven't really we've hit on a couple of them, but I mean, Sam Laporta's price is down a little bit from where he's been at 5,200. I mean, George Kittle is still 6K. There's a lot of variance there. You know, he's so much boom or bust. For the most part, I think making a stand on George Kittle does make some sense. But past that, I mean, past those 2 guys, I mean, it's Jake Ferguson and Logan Thomas. To me, you just play if you're playing a different stack, then I think if you're avoiding those guys, you just play whatever tight ends in your stack. That's the way I would. At least the quarterback you're running, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna make it a point to force in George Kittle into every lineup that I possibly can this week. I mean, nobody. We talk about the tight ends and stuff like that. Like nobody can match his ceiling. Nobody. Like 22, 23, 26, 27. There's not a tight end on this slate, and I love Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta can't get you 27. There's no damn way. Like, nobody can match his ceiling. And if George Kittle's not going to be played, especially given this matchup, like versus Seattle, where the strength of their defense, okay, you can run the ball versus Seattle, like Kev was talking about. What do you do to like you could pass on them if you stay away from the strength of their like just like avoid their damn corners. George Kittle is not gonna like he ain't matching up with Devon Witherspoon. He's not matching up with their outside corners. Like George Kittle could sit there and drop like 9 catches for 130 and 2 touchdowns. And I won't be surprised at all, man.
Definitely. And especially if you're not getting, you want exposure to the San Fran team, I feel like in that late slate, the late hammer. And if you're not playing CMC, like, you got to take an option who can get you, 25 points from that roster. I will say is with us being on the tight end conversation, like, is this potentially a slate where we can be considering 2 tight end builds?
Yes.
Tucker Kraft is going to be the chalk, right? So even if you're playing Kittle in the flex, but like even a Ferguson and Kittle build where you're getting like, whatever that output looks like, 70% of the tight end scoring from 2 dudes, like, is that viable?
I think it's viable. Sure. And the other thing about it is you get the late swap equity of if you build it, like if you build your lineup, you can either play one of either Metcalf or Kittle late in the flex.
Right.
Just leave yourself the money.
I mean, we just haven't seen any of these mid-range guys have ceilings, right? But we've seen Kittle have a ceiling multiple games this year, and it's been like what 3 or 4 in a row now. So yeah, like I mean, there are some good mid-range plays. Like if you play Howell, McLaurin obviously stands out. Dobbs is interesting for all the reasons we talked about. But I mean, good games for those guys, right, are like 18. They're not 27 or 30 like Kittle has shown he can do multiple times. So I think you treat Kittle like you definitely can play him as your own tight end, but if you play, I don't think I would play like, let me put it this way. I don't think I would play double tight end with like Logan Thomas and Tucker Kraft. Like I would be
Right.
playing like Ferguson or these guys that can get you 100 yards and a bonus.
You need two of
Or
Kittle,
double tutty.
Laporta, and
Yeah.
Ferguson.
Correct.
I
yeah,
think
one of those would have
shooting.
to be in the flex. Correct. I agree.
Well,
Because you're treating
and
them as wide receiver.
the other thing about playing Laporta is I'm not playing more than like one, maybe max 2 other Lions with him, because he doesn't hit the 18, 20 point ceiling and 2 Lions go along with him, or I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, if that's the case. So like, I'm probably, if I'm playing Laporta and if I'm not stacking Jared Goff, then I'm only playing probably one other Lion with him. Because he probably needs to go 2 touchdowns. Like, for him to get you 20 or to match Kittle and stuff like that, if Kittle goes off, he's going to need 2 touchdowns. And so where the other touchdown, like, it's hard to see, like, you're not just like loading up with a ton of Lions and playing Sam Laporta.
When it comes to that game or that situation, like, we didn't talk about Deebo Samuel, I don't think at all. He's obviously the most cheap.
I'm
he's
not
a
playing
cheaper
him.
option.
Yeah.
Is there any thought of I mean, I know it's not a huge sample size to go off of, but in terms of just historically, Deebo Samuel has smashed in this spot, where Brandon Ayuk has done absolutely nothing in this spot outside of one game. Other than that, like even last year, he went two catches for 19 yards on 4 targets, and then the matchup prior to that, he had 5 catches for 63. Where Deebo Samuel has absolutely torched this team in his career. He has 3 games of 100 plus yards against them. He's averaging 103.5 receiving yards per game against them. But George Kittle's been fine over that span too. But it's just, he's $5,900. He's
Nobody's gonna play him,
and nobody's gonna play him. Like,
I'm not playing him.
He's kind of in that dead zone where people are just like, either you're going to pay up or you're paying down. And I mean, the ceiling's there. I mean, he's had, even just this year, he's had multiple games where 22.1 against the Rams, 28 against the Giants. Like, he can certainly get there. And he could be
the
that
thing with
guy.
him is he can score multiple touchdowns, right?
Yes.
In many different ways. So
my only problem, like going back to the coverage data, it builds a very, very bad case against Deebo. Like, looking at Seattle's single high looks, in the full games that he's played this year versus single high, 16% target share, 1.09 yards per route run. That's why I'm not playing Deebo.
What if he gets? What if he?
This
is just devil's advocate. Short week, right? This is a Thursday game. What if he gets more running back snaps and they don't just run Christian McCaffrey into the line every time?
I'd have to see a sample where Christian McCaffrey, that hasn't happened this year, to believe like it's not.
Have they had a Thursday game this year?
Ooh, it's a good question. Shit, I don't know, Mandy. Damn, that's a good call. I don't know.
I don't know if they have. I can't remember.
Let me see.
I feel like they have, because I feel like it was.
I feel like they have.
I feel like we talked about Elijah Mitchell at some point, or Jordan Mason.
I'm
not 100% certain though.
I'm looking. They have played on Thursday. They played the Giants.
What week was that?
That was week 3.
Week 3.
Yeah, that's when Deebo Samuel crushed.
Let's see. I'm pulling up the game log.
That was also the game. Didn't McCaffrey leave that game early, or no?
McCaffrey had 18 carries for 85 yards. Elijah Mitchell had 11 carries.
Elijah had 11.
Yeah, and then Deebo had 6 for 129 on a score.
They did win 30-12, but
did Brandon Ayuk not play that game?
He did not.
He did not play that game.
Or at least he didn't get a catch. I don't know.
No, he didn't even play. He didn't even play that game. Hold on.
Yeah, he was out.
Why do I not remember? Why did Brandon Ayuk not play that game? Like, I'm totally blanking on this. He was inactive, and I can't remember what the injury was or why he didn't play.
What? Sorry, what was the date on that?
It was week 3. So I mean, that's another reason. Like, Deebo was the only guy that they had. Like as far as the wide receivers, like if
shoulder injury.
Ayuk is that. Oh, okay. Yep. Okay.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because he was wearing that contraption.
He was wearing the harness.
49ers
harness.
activated Chris Conley. Huh. Fun name.
That was what the Ronnie Bell got a touchdown
Yes,
in that
the
game.
randomly caught a pass that was tipped
That was
by
the game we talked about the Ronnie Bell punt. Oh, it's all coming back to me now. It's all coming back to me now.
Yes, that week.
I mean, so the coverage data just does not set up well for Debo. I mean, could it on the short week, like, could it happen? Sure. I think the other side of that, if we're gonna make if we're making a short week narrative, then should we be making a narrative for Elijah Mitchell in the running back pool?
If you think San Francisco smashes, I mean, I don't. I mean, he's going to get more carries, but I just don't think his ceiling is going to warrant playing him over like Montgomery or Charbonnet or guys
any
like
of the other punt wide receivers.
Yeah,
I don't disagree.
Yeah, because it's only one game script, right? And even if that happens, he's only going to get.
He's got a double touchdown to probably make the optimal, and it's probably not going to happen.
You're asking for a perfect run out.
Yeah, right. It's too much. So, I mean,
but I guess that goes back to the McCaffrey talk, right? Like, I guess there's some concern to McCaffrey's ceiling at that point, unless he's the one that scores the 3 or 4 touchdowns that gets him up by $1 million, and then they lighten the load after that. But
could happen.
Which could happen
with as much freaking touchdown equity as he has.
I doubt they do that because this is a pretty important game in terms of.
It is. It's divisional.
I mean, it's not just divisional; it's also for the division. I mean, obviously, there's still a lot more football left. But, the 49ers
but it's basically it's just the two of them for the division.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. But I mean, if they're up 24-3, I mean, he's going to come out of the game.
Sure. I guess I'm not. I'm not projecting that type of game script here, especially on the road.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
No, that's fair. I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, and I think kind of getting back to tight end, I think tight end's pretty damn straightforward. I'm going to play a shit ton of George Kittle. Probably my number 2 guy is going to be Ferguson. I think Logan Thomas is only alive in any Sam Howell stacks that I make.
Agree.
And again, we talked about Tucker Kraft. Like, I think he's perfectly fine. The other thing about it is I think if you're going to get wild with Jordan Love, is you just play Jordan Love naked. Like, you just go skinny stack between him and Tucker Kraft, and then you X out the rest of the Packers and say, okay, well, Jordan Love's going to run. If he goes for 3 touchdowns and it's spread out and none of them hit a ceiling, because shit, we've seen that every single freaking week. Like, Jordan Love gets there and brings nobody with him because everybody gets 4 targets, 30 yards, and a touchdown. But Jordan Love finishes with 30 yards. If Tucker Kraft is one of those touchdowns, he probably or maybe makes the optimal. So to me, if I'm playing Jordan Love, probably my favorite way to play him is just to skinny stack him with Tucker Kraft.
That's an interesting merit. And just play all the dudes elsewhere.
And play all the dudes.
All the dudes.
In terms of, so, I mean, unless you guys have a tight end, I mean, I don't think to me, it's just pretty much I'm playing whoever the quarterback, I'm just going to stack him with them. I feel like the most optimal way to go. I think the hard part with paying up a Kittle, if you're wanting to pay up for the other guys, like, it's going to be tough to be able to get to Kittle at that point, unless you're, just playing, I guess, unless you're just paying up for CeeDee Lamb and you're not paying up for any of the other dudes and you're fading, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Christian McCaffrey.
Which is likely, what the Bills have probably been aligning themselves with based off of the conversations that we've been talking about, is getting that dude.
That's why nobody's going to play Kittle. And again,
that mid build is going to be low, like Debo, Kittle, Montgomery. Everybody's going stars and scrubs.
I think the mid build is the way to go this week, boys. I really do.
With that mid build, D, let's talk about defense. Let's talk about defense, D, bro. And we talked a couple you talked about Xing out Cowboys and trying to get leverage there. Like, where are the spots that you're looking at, and who are you not willing to? What's your cutoff? Who are you not willing to put into your lineups this week?
I don't want the Packers because the Packers can't pressure. They don't do anything on defense. They're banged up. I'm not playing the Packers. I think my favorite 2 defenses, I think the Lions are my favorite defense. That's number 1. Because it makes too much freaking sense. Like, it's just such an easy stack. Like, if Lions are at home, they roll. David Montgomery is our favorite running back play, I think, like, out of all of us. Like, if I don't think I'm saying that's crazy, but I think we all love David Montgomery. So if David Montgomery smashes, Lions smash. So for me, it's the Lions are probably my favorite defense. And then I'm kind of torn. It's either the 49ers, probably are my number 2, and then Seahawks if you're just being contrarian because they have played better as of late. Like, and we talked about like the at-home narrative with Seattle. If Purdy does struggle or things like that, like if you're not playing, put it this way, if you're not playing any 49ers, or if like CMC is maybe your only 49er, then you really have to have a lot of interest in Seattle's defense.
Yeah, I'm pretty much going to probably play exclusively the Seattle. They're just $2,600. They're easy to get to. They're top 10 in pressure rate. I mean,
I'm not playing the Packers and I'm not playing the Commanders. I can tell you all that. Like, I'm not playing them.
I think those are the only 2 that I wouldn't play. I definitely would not.
I'll find the $100 to get to the Seahawks.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If I have a couple hundred extra, if I have money left over, and if one of them fits in, it's fine. But I'm probably gonna be more likely than not just changing it out and just I'm gonna go back down to Seattle.
Yeah,
keep giving me Seattle.
I will say
the Cowboys fail as far as the defense. That's the leverage. We talk about making stands. I'm making a stand against the Cowboys defense failing.
Well, if you're building the mid-range, it's okay to play the Cowboys defense because you're going to have a unique build. And so, like, it's okay to have that ownership on defense.
Or play them in a game stack.
But I would not play, like, Dallas Onslaught with Cowboys, or I wouldn't play, CMC Lamb with Cowboys. It's just going to be too popular. Like, you're not unique at that point.
Oh,
so
dude.
I would only play
CMC and Lamb and the Cowboys defense. Like, holy shit, what's that going to add up to?
Dude,
like,
for sure.
Right. You got the uber
what.
chalk build because you're going to follow all the rest of the parts or pieces that everybody else is doing.
Yep, I agree. So I wouldn't X out the Cowboys, but I would just be cautious of the build that you play them on. And we already said you can 100% play them in a Sam Howell stack.
Yep.
Yeah.
If he throws a pick 6, you're live.
Which is great leverage. Great leverage there. What's the Cowboys D number that makes you feel sick to your stomach about seeing you having to catch up to? That's a reasonable number. Like, obviously, if they put up 30, like, we understand that. But, like, when it gets to, like,
15,
18, 20
15,
points for Lions
15.
D?
When they get 15? In the mid-double-digit range, that's probably because you're going to be – in most defensive projections, you're probably going to be 8 to 9 points behind the curve. So, like, you're going to have to make that shit up if you want a chance to.
Anything over 10 is a good game.
Yes,
and the difference in salary is only $400 between the Lions and the Cowboys. So it's like it's not like it's an extra $1,000. It's like, or sorry, it's $600.
I was 32.
600. So yeah, it's. I mean, the gap in salary is not big enough. Like the points are going to matter.
Yeah.
I think that 2v2 on your defense versus whatever punt or whatever you're doing is going to be pivotal this week. Because if the Cowboys don't get you 20 or something like that, if say like they score the same as the Lions, not even saying the Lions outscore them, but even if they score the same as the Lions, that extra 600, whatever you're able to do with that, if that is, I mean, just throw this out there. If that is getting from David Montgomery to Jahmyr Gibbs, getting from I'm looking around here, getting from Terry McLaurin to George Kittle, or George Kittle to DK Metcalf. Like that could be that type of 2v2 in your defense versus the positional player could be a huge decision point this week.
Fair.
Well, speaking of building, why don't we build a fucking lineup? You want to do that?
Just wait. I mean, I'm waiting. Come on, let's go, baby.
Let's do it. You want to lead it, Kev?
No, yeah. Ryan, you're first time this year, so
start
off.
Let's go, Ryan.
I'll take the easy way out. Let's start CD Lamb.
Oh, that man took the easy. Love it.
I called it out though.
You did.
All right, let's go in a circle then. Maddie, who you going with?
Good call.
Those are my first 2 clicks this week. Those 2 guys right there.
All right. Well, I'll follow it up with Jamison Williams.
Okay. I'm gonna go Sam Howell.
My man. It's exactly what I was hoping you were going to do.
Okay.
Let's do Doxson with the stack.
Oh, baby. I'm loving it.
Let's double it. Let's go McLaurin.
All right.
Okay.
What's it to me?
Yep, 5,100 left for a running back, tight end, and a defense.
Well, let's throw. I'm trying to figure out what we have left. So if we were to play, all right, fuck it. I'm playing George Kittle. That's what I want to do.
We can go Pollard in Seattle defense. That fits like a glove.
Yeah, we could. I mean, we could do.
Dude, I kind of like the
Charbonnet,
mid-range build.
Cowboys.
I like the mid-range build.
So are we doing? Are we doing Pollard?
Kev?
Yeah, I mean, or we could do. We talked about we could go Gibbs as well, but I mean that he's viable if you go Seattle's defense. But I'm perfectly okay with going Tony Pollard in Seattle's defense.
I think in Howell, I think you should
Dude.
play Pollard in that.
Yeah,
build.
you should. And
Yeah.
then
Just
the
get
other
all
thing
the-
about this,
all the
like you
points for
literally
Dallas.
just like you double stacked Sam Howell. Nobody's gonna have that. And not only that, you have the double bring back. So we're playing for the full nuclear shootout.
Mm-hmm.
We've
Right.
full faded the damn Packers.
We have San Francisco
And-
exposure, and we have 2 Detroit pieces. It's a responsible team that's
It's
going to
a-
be lower.
It's a very
gonna be
this is a
unique.
sexy team.
Yeah, I like that team
I
a lot,
like this
personally.
a lot. God, I like this a lot. It's a good team.
Yeah, so Hal, Blanca, Monty, Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, Jameson Williams, Dotson, Kittle, McLaurin, Seahawks with 100
That's a
table.
Oh, you know what else you can do? This is interesting. You don't have to switch it, but you can also swap Pollard to McCaffrey and play Ferguson over Kittle. And that's still you still get 1 Sanford and you still have a full game stack there.
I like it, but I want to play Kittle.
I hear you. I'm just saying the option's there.
I know.
That's
The
a
other,
nice
the other
option.
thing we could do too, and that is not even playing Pollard, but having the late stack with Charbonnet and then playing the Cowboys defense in the Sam Howell stack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
I like the Kittle.
if you did the Cowboys defense, you still have plenty of money like to play Charbonnet, and then you have the late correlation of Charbonnet and Kittle. And then we just talk. I mean, like we just played the Cowboys defense. Like
Yeah, that
nobody's
makes sense.
going to play Sam Howell and the Cowboys defense on the other side. They're going to say, and it's like, throw all that shit out the window on a 3-game.
I mean, pick 6 is possible. Turpin housing 1 is possible. Like there's
Yeah,
different routes that
so
can
many
get there.
pass.
Yeah.
So many pass. And Sam could still get 30.
Right.
I love the team though. I mean, we've got leverage on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like we've got leverage on CMC.
That's a good team. I like it.
It's a really damn good team.
All right, let's do. We got a second. That didn't take very long. Let's do one more. I want to do a.
Kev's like, we ain't even hit 2 hours yet, baby. I
already
need another team.
I entered that lineup. Let's do now a stars and scrub build and just see what that looks like and see which one you like more.
Okay.
Okay.
So Ryan, lead us off again.
Stars and scrubs build. Let's play. Let's start it off with Charbonnet.
All right. Let me see.
All right, Maddie.
McCaffrey.
Is it to me or you, Kev?
It's to you.
We're going Lamb.
All right, I'm gonna lock in Dak.
Okay. To Ryan.
So we got Dak, Charbonnet, McCaffrey, and Lamb, $4,100 remaining for 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and defense.
Let's do the run back with Logan Thomas.
Oh. Okay.
Brandon Cooks.
All right. Wide receiver, flex, and defense.
Romeo Dobbs. Then we've got 7,500 left.
So,
I mean, you're just
CMC
picking your favorite
and D?
punt. Yeah, we got flex and defense, right?
Yeah, flex and defense, and if you put it in Seattle, it leaves 4,900.
Yeah, if you put in Seattle, I got 4,900. So Jahan Dotson fits. You go Watson, go Reed, JSN. There's a lot of options.
Or you could
Put
go.
JSN in there.
You could go Reed over Dobbs, which would probably be the popular build on here.
I was to say I want to go Dobbs to make us different
Yeah,
because he's not going to play. Like we're super mega chalk everywhere else.
Yeah, because it would leave you at $5,700.
57.
And really,
Yeah.
all you're getting to is like AJ Dillon,
McLaurin.
Yeah. I mean, you got a lot of different options, but my whole thing is like we got a lot of chalk in here, so it's like Dak's gonna be popular, so is Charbonnet, so is CMC, so is Lamb. But after that, we're getting very different. Cooks is, I don't think he's gonna be like not popular, but I don't think he's gonna be like chalky. Like I think he's probably gonna be like what, like 35%.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. This Dak CMC Lamb build, it just gets keyholed. To
Very, very chalky. Like
can
you're
only get so
keyholed
many
into like
combinations.
punts.
That's why I almost like JSN from that perspective, because it's like, okay, CMC smashes.
I like
let's
it.
Get Charbonnet,
Well, and the other thing about it is you got the late hammer with late correlation with CMC.
Yeah. Or not even smashes, because if you're playing Seattle D and it's like just the production from San Fran is going to come from CMC, but like,
well, and you could,
Charbonnet
if you
and
play
JSN,
JSN, you can get up to the Lions defense too. Because we don't even have, good Lord, we don't even have any Lions in this game. I mean, in this build.
Yeah, I was trying to see if there was a way to, if you played JSN, if you played the $4,100 JSN, it leaves $800 remaining. So I was trying to see if you swapped out Charbonnet, because you get up to Monty and we're $200 short. Play David Montgomery.
I mean, if we
cool. What can we? What?
So the other thing is, I'm okay with coming off of Dobbs if we want to play JMO and give a salary if we want to move something else. If y'all want to do that,
that gives us 65. That's DK.
All right, I'm gonna come off of Dobbs. So I'm gonna put Jamison Williams in here.
It's Metcalf or it's Montgomery too.
So coming off of JSN, that would give us. Oh yeah, now we got Metcalf, Montgomery. Yeah, you could play Lockett because Lockett's not in doubt. If Metcalf, I mean, basically you could put Metcalf in here, and you could pivot anywhere from Metcalf to Kittle to anybody. I mean, you've got all kinds of you got all kinds of equity.
Coming off McCaffrey?
No, coming off of Dobbs to JMO.
Yeah, so it's Dak, McCaffrey, Charbonnet, JMO, Lamb, Cooks, Thomas,
Seattle D,
6,500 flex. Seattle
okay, I see. He's keeping Charbonnet in. Okay,
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's a sexy team.
That's the move.
And you got tons of swap options late, unless you wanted to play Montgomery early, which we can.
So who are we locked in for the last one?
Well, if you play Montgomery, it locks you in. Well, I mean, and you could slide Charbonnet or McCaffrey down.
I say you play Metcalf, and then you've got the option to play Kittle or Lockett late.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to go.
Anybody late.
And plus, we're already fading the Lions hard. Like we don't have any Lions in this, so.
Okay, so it's going to be Dak, Charbonnet, McCaffrey, Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Jameson Williams, Logan Thomas, DK Metcalf, and Seahawks defense.
I think so. And then that's 0 left.
Yeah, and you can.
So
laser
okay,
lock.
so then the real question: which team did you like better, the first one or the second one?
I like the first one.
I like the first one as well.
I feel like doing this stars and scrubs keyholes you into like all the popular options, and you're eating a shit ton of chalk. But that's where I sit.
But that second team gives you enough of those leverage options to be able to still get different. Like, because not having the Lions exposure is really key there. That's what makes that team fun.
Being heavy on Seattle.
That if that game just disappoints in general, and you're like, I avoided all.
You're making the bet that
and...
DK also outscores both Gibbs and Montgomery there in that range, which is not that's not a crazy bet to make.
Not crazy.
No. Like I said, he's been knocking on the door of like monster games, and he just falls short like 95 receiving yards. If you add like he goes for 2 touchdowns and he gets the 100-yard bonus to like multiple games this year, DK Metcalf has been so damn close to smashing.
Right.
All right, well, lock it in.
Beautiful.
Love it.
We locked in, boys. Both teams.
Yeah, baby.
All right. Just under that 2-minute mark, or 2-hour mark, Kev, for you.
So we got a filibuster for the next 5 minutes and then go an extra hour so we could see how long Maddie will stay on. Got it. Cool.
All of a sudden,
we just start talking main slate.
Here, think out.
Do not adjust. Do not adjust.
I'm going to restart my router. I'll be right back.
You on the AOL dial-up?
Never comes back.
We sit here 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, Maddie said he's going to be back, man. Boy's FaceTiming us from the bed.
I can't respond to your Twitter message. I don't have internet. Sorry.
Hidden
Tough
disease.
scene. Tough scene. You hate it. You hate it, man.
Hidden disease. It wouldn't be a Thanksgiving pod, boys, if we didn't hit that 2 hours for you. Wow, the DJ Nation pod back better than ever on this Thanksgiving pod. We hope you guys enjoyed the breakdowns. Make sure you're tuned in. I know Kevin's going to be chopping it up for you guys so that you guys can listen to all the takes as we ramble on for 30 minutes before we get into the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end breakdowns. But all good stuff, all fun stuff. And you definitely want to make sure that you're following along to the Fantasy Authority to make sure you get all your fantasy news and all of the updates that you will need to be able to conquer those Thanksgiving lineups. Signing off for the boys as we sign out of these quad boxes. Maddie DFS, Maddie 2v2. You can find him on Twitter at Maddie DFS. We got my boy D-Bro, the fantastic beard himself, the bearded individual at D-Bro_FFB is where you can find him on Twitter. And then we got the Santa Claus, the Mr. Kevin Steele, D-Bro's big daddy. And yes, I put the big in there just for fun. Fantasy Rap 13 is where you can find Kevin Steele on Twitter. And then you know me, it's RW Lag. I got the AOL going. I got the dial-up running just for you guys. Joining on the phone. It's amazing. You can follow me on Twitter at RyanAlexander_W. Catch the DJ Nation pod for their breakdowns on fantasy goodness for the rest of the season. And we're going to sign out for that. But until then, get that money. Get that money. Get that money. That's what it's all about, and that's what we love to do. Signing out. Peace. We out here, boys. See you in them DFS.